Alright, what is up guys, and welcome back to Cris Flips. It is a beautiful Monday afternoon here in Tennessee, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a transmission fluid and filter change in none other than the 2006 Nissan Titan. I believe this is the same for 2004 to 2015 models, and it should be pretty similar to the Armada as well. So the first thing I like is just kind of get all my tools and everything I'm going to need together. You're going to need a 19mm wrench or socket. I got both just in case. That's going to be for your drain plug. It's good to have a torque wrench to torque your bolts back on for the filter and as well for the transmission pan, and it needs to be inch pounds instead of foot pounds. You're going to need some pliers. Needle nose are probably going to be your best bet to take off the transmission cable from the side of the pan. And we're going to need a 10mm for the filter bolts and for the transmission pan bolts. And I've also got my ratchet wrenches handy. Like always, I always recommend grabbing you a set of ratchet wrenches. Brake parts cleaner to kind of clean everything up, like the pan and whatnot. It's always good to have your little impact ready. Got the filter. I always order all my parts from rockauto.com. It came with the filter and gasket. This was like 30 bucks just for this. And that's where I ordered my fluid. I think I ordered a little bit extra because when I was researching, it said that the transmission holds 11.5 quarts of transmission fluid, but I didn't think about it not draining all of that fluid out. So what we're going to do is just measure the amount that drains out of the transmission and put the same amount back in, and then we're going to check it on the dipstick and see where we're at. So we're going to start off by taking the transmission dipstick out, and I kind of like to do this just because it's going to kind of open it up and let it vent as you're draining and maybe let it drain a little better. So just go ahead and pull your transmission fluid dipstick out, and that's going to be a 10mm bolt holding that on. So I just wipe the dipstick off and just lay it across up here, and pretty much everything I do, I like to put the bolts back where they go if I can, and if I can't, then obviously I'll bag and tag them, but that just kind of helps me keep up with where everything goes. Now, I don't know about you guys, my truck sits up a little bit higher than normal. It's got a lift kit on it, so that's why I waited to lift the truck up until after I pulled the dipstick out. I've got some blocks behind the wheels just to kind of help scotch the wheels. And I'm going to go ahead and lift the truck up some. Not really sure if I'm going to get both the tires completely off the ground. I'm just trying to give myself a little bit more room while I'm up under here. So just going to go up about as high as I can. And then I'm gonna stick my jack stands under there, and that'll just give me, you know, safety. So like I said, not gonna get the tires off the ground. That's not really what I'm worried about. Just to lift the front end up some, just to give myself some more room while I'm up under there. So one 7-quart drain pan and another just a little bowl I bought at Dollar Tree. I love going to Dollar Tree and just grabbing towels. I use them as shop towels and paper towels, and they've got little disinfectant wipes that work perfectly for getting grease off your hands. So I always keep those in my truck and my shop and everything. Anyway, getting started, we're gonna put these up under here. And we're going to grab our 19mm. So that right there is the drain pan. It's kind of right in front of the cross member, or the drain plug rather. And you can either put a socket on there, 19mm, or you can use a wrench. Either way will work fine. Bear with me guys, I'm trying to get a GoPro going, so then you guys will see everything I see perfectly. Well, let's say it's on there a little bit tight, but got it loose. Alright, guard your eyes, fellas. You're gonna wanna have some a towel or some paper towels ready, because you're probably gonna end up getting a little bit of this on your hands. And I just finished driving the truck, so I'm sure it's gonna be hot. Oh yeah. Oh man, that does not look good. Does not look good at all. Alright, and now while we're waiting on that to drain, we're going to go ahead and take the pan bolts loose. Alright guys, so first things first, I'm the realist. No, seriously though, you just pinch these guys right here and kind of push them in a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on. I'm just pinching this on this side, and then it just pulls right out. So get that line out of your way. And if you're smart like me, you'll make sure to get right in the way of the draining transmission fluid and get it all over your hand, even though you've already cleaned it off. So now we're gonna go ahead and start taking these loose. Alright guys, so looking at that fluid, I'm gonna say this is probably the first transmission fluid and filter change this truck has had in 139,000 miles. That sucks, but at least it's getting done now. There's little markers on here, right there, that'll show you. And it looks like we are right at just 3 quarts that came out. But just to make sure, if you have an old oil jug like I do, and a funnel, you can dump it in there and get an exact measurement, and that is what we're gonna do now. If you're dumping it in the jug, I'm gonna highly recommend that you set it on top of a sheet of cardboard or something, because if you're using a little cheap drain pan like I am, it makes it pretty difficult to pour it in there even with a funnel. All right guys, so dumping it into the jug, I mean, obviously I spilled some, but not a lot of it. It's looking at a little over 3 quarts. Plus what's going to be left in the bottom of the pan. It is pretty much done draining. There's like a drip here and there, but that's pretty much it. So now it's time for us to hop under there, take this bad boy, and get that pan off and see what we got to look at in there. Alright guys, so here we got the drain plug. I'm gonna slide this sheet of cardboard up under here, because if the pan like drips any transmission fluid, that way I don't get it all over the shop floor. So the smaller the mess, the more quickly we can clean it up. So let's get the let's see if you guys can see. I'm gonna put the drain plug back in. Let's keep the towel handy so we can wipe stuff off. We're not gonna tighten it down yet. We'll wait until we're putting everything back together. And I forgot to mention, now those brackets, if you need to, make sure to take a picture so that you know where these brackets that hold the line on go, that hold the transmission cable on. Make sure you're careful guys, because this can be hot. Alright, so I left 2 in so I can move the camera out of the way in case we drip transmission fluid. Anyway, you're just going to pull those last 2 out. So as I expected, the transmission pan, when I pulled it loose, it released a bunch of more fluid. So yay, and I made a huge mess. So the thing I was worried about are these magnets inside of the pan. As you can see, we've got some, I mean, not just a crazy amount, but there are some metal shavings in here. And I mean, I wasn't having any, the transmission wasn't slipping or anything. There was just maybe like a slide that would shift into second gear, maybe, or third. But it wasn't slipping real bad. So hopefully this will fix, this is gonna make the transmission run smoother than it was. It was already shifting pretty smoothly, you know, but hopefully this will get it back to working like new. All right, so we got our brake cleaner and a towel. All right, so here we are. All right, so we're just gonna spray this off so it's easier to deal with, you know. Clean some of that off. Just make it easier to, you know, so we're not getting disgusting as we're pulling the filter out. Now these bolts that hold the filter in are going to be different lengths, so you do want to note where every single one goes. What I like to do is refer back to the cardboard, and this is what I did also when I did the engine swap to keep the transmission bolts organized, is stick them in cardboard. You can see the holes in here, but the pattern that the bolts are in, just do that exact same pattern in the exact same spots in a piece of cardboard, and that will help you keep up with which bolt goes where. So I'm going to do that same thing here. Got a box right here. Doesn't have to be the same size, just as long as you know the general area of where you are putting your bolts, then this method will work fine for you. And this will work. It's this little piece here. Okay, and as you can see, I'm just gonna make the same pattern in here. And that's gonna help me keep up with which bolts go where. Alright guys, so I forgot to mention, just unhook that cable up there at the top. This one right here. In the passengers, the front passenger side corner. And then pull that bolt. And that will come down. Okay. And we can just get the filter out. Alright guys, so now I'm going to clean the pan out. Just use the brake cleaner and some paper towels, and we're going to get it as cleaned out as possible. And then we're going to get the new filter put in, and this is how I keep track of which bolt goes where. Just stick it in a piece of, even a piece of paper will work. Just a thin sheet of cardboard, and then when you go to put them back in, you'll know exactly where they go. Alright guys, so now we have the pan clean, and we cleaned up the transmission pan bolts. So now we are ready to install the new filter. And I already checked to make sure that it is a match to the old one, and it is. But it never hurts to double check, you know, because sometimes they can send the wrong part by mistake. So it never hurts to check. So let's get this puppy put on. Alright guys, so as you can see, I cleaned up under here as best as I could. You're going to have a constant little bit of a drip coming out. Let's just try to get this new filter put in before we get transmission fluid all over my phone and everything else. It's gonna go on just like this. You can go ahead and tighten this. Ta-da! Now, wipe everything down again. Just trying to get as much of the old fluid out as possible, because that old fluid was not pretty. Okay, the first one I'm going to tighten down is going to be the one that holds on this cable, or wire, whatever you like to call it. And remember, guys, that none of these go on here very tight. They only go to 70 inch-pounds. So, I'm going to grab your torque wrench. I've got an old school guy here. Okay, and we're going to go to 70. Okay, and that's right there. And now we're going to do the same with all of the filter bolts, and like I said, we are going to go in a cross pattern just like we're putting a tire on, and that is just to evenly distribute pressure onto all of the parts. So we'll start right here. And 70 is not, 70 inch-pounds is not, it's not a lot, guys. I can just do it with my thumb. So, they don't have to be super tight at all. Oh, and after you get this bolt over here tightened, you can go ahead and just stick that wire back in there, and then this little bracket folds down just like that. And make sure you don't miss any. You don't want anything rattling in your transmission. And you gotta pull all this back apart just to tighten down a nut or a bolt, and that's just unnecessary. There should be none of that going on. It's just as easy just to double check and make sure we have all of these tightened down. Just make sure you are ready to be dripped, to have transmission dripping on you the entire process, because that is just going to happen. Alright guys, so there we go. Now all we have to do is put the pan on and fill this bad boy back up. So that's how it's going to look when you're finished. Just kind of dab it, get as much of this fluid off as you can. But now we're going to go get the pan. So if you want to make this a lot easier, I would take your new gasket and go ahead and just push the bolts up through most of the holes. The only ones I didn't do are the ones where the bracket goes. I wouldn't push them all the way through, you know, just kind of get them started. That way it's not so difficult to get the bolts started into the threads. But let's get this thing put back on. All right, guys, so just make sure everything is clean, and make sure that, especially around where the gasket goes on, and then we're just gonna and just make sure you get a few of them started. Okay, and then you can tell where your brackets are going to go. Alright guys, now once you get them all started, just go just like before in a cross pattern and just get them kind of hand tight with a ratchet. Do not torque them down yet. So you want to go in a cross pattern to evenly distribute pressure and to make sure that we don't bend the pan. Alright guys, so once you got them all seated, now just like before in a cross pattern, just like with the filter, you're going to torque them down to 70 pounds because you do not want to bend this pan. So do not go higher than 70 pounds. Alright guys, so once you've double and triple checked that your all your transmission pan bolts are torqued to 70 inch-pounds, go ahead and pop your transmission harness back in here, and then go ahead and tighten down the drain plug. Okay, and now you're ready to fill it back up with transmission. We're going to put in 3 quarts, and then we're going to check for leaks, and if we're all clear, we're going to throw in another quart, because like I said, it looks like altogether we probably drained about 4 quarts of fluid out of it. And then we're going to start it, take it for a test drive, let the transmission warm up, and then we're going to check and see if we need to add any fluid on the dipstick, see what it says. Alright guys, so we don't have any leaks. We're 3 quarts in. I'm going to go ahead and add another half of a quart. Yeah, I'm going to add another half quart, and then I'm going to go ahead and see where we're at. And I'll check back with you when we're finished. Alright guys, well I got her topped off. I drove the truck home. She's running good. I've got a little grease on my nose there. Might need to wipe that off. But anyway, shifting out good. Everything seems good. I checked the fluid level. Perfect. So thanks for watching guys, and stay tuned for our next project. See you next time.